In 2002, a very infamous tape came out featuring R. Kelly, beloved to so many of us, engaging in sexual activity with a minor. And yet it wasn't until 2021 that he was convicted. In fact, it wasn't until 2022 that he was sentenced to 30 years. And so my question to you is, how is it that he and so many others that we love to listen to their music, love to listen to their comedy, love to see them perform, love to vote for them behind the ballot, people that we love and admire, how is it that we're able to hear the rumors swirling and in some cases even see it with our own eyes? And it's not until years and years later that anything ever happens, that we hear horrific stories of people in the background who are being molested, abused, beaten by those that we continued to clap and cheer for. Do we as a society protect predators? Let's talk about it. Welcome to When Docs Talk.
When docs talk, when docs talk, when docs talk, when docs talk. When docs talk, 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 when docs talk.
Hello and welcome to When Docs Talk, Hot Tops by the Docs. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we are When Docs Talk. We are a collective collaborative of physicians, nurses, nurse practitioners, and other allied health professionals. And we're here to talk about things that are on your mind from a different perspective than you're used to hearing them. So you're going to hear it from a perspective of healthcare professional, from a perspective of women, from a perspective of women of color, and all the different hats that we wear. So welcome to When Docs Talk. I want to tell you a little bit about us. So I am Dr. Adidiyang Ipe Apo. I am an emergency physician, also board certified in internal medicine. I am based out of Georgia, but I am hailing from Miami, Florida by way of Nigerian parents. So shout out to everyone in those zones and spheres. I am a wife and a mom of 3, and I'm really excited to talk about today's topic with you. But let me introduce you to the rest of the crew. Crew, tell them who you are.
Hey guys, I am Dr. Yolanda Harrison Lloyd. I am a board certified family medicine physician practicing in the Atlanta area. I am the newest franchise owner of The Healthy Woman, located in Atlanta East. Taking appointments now. Give us a call, folks. I am from New Orleans, Louisiana, by way of Blytheville, Arkansas, the booming metropolis. Go Chickasaws. They just had their homecoming too. I am a mother, and I have a son and daughter who are the light of my life, as well as a husband that I adore absolutely. And I cannot wait. I think we got some good stuff to talk about today. Got some hot tops.
Yes.
Hey, my name is Morgan. I am currently a psychiatric nurse with an emergency room background. I originally hail from Brooklyn, New York. I am a mother, and I am a wife, and I know we have great topics to discuss today, so I am super excited.
And last but not least, I'm Dr. Sonia Pinson. I'm a board certified family medicine physician who's working in an ER setting. I hail from Peachtree City, Georgia, left for a little while to be in the Navy, but had to come back to be an official Georgia Peach. And a proud mom of my little doggie, Zaria. And I'm just happy to be here with my girls. I can't wait for us to, sip on some tea. I guess it's herbal tea.
Yes.
So, yes, looking forward to it all. Yes.
I hear that. I hear that. So for those of you who are with us for this ride, remember we are When Docs Talk. We are on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. So please be sure to like, share, and subscribe. But today we have a special episode. It's called Hot Tops by the Docs. And what I mean by that is we're going to be talking about things that are trending in the news with a special focus on the topic of, do we protect predators? Okay. But before we jump into that section, all of us have kind of been talking, going back and forth and talking about things that are happening in the world. And we want to kind of share our perspectives with you and get an idea from you all how you think. So tell me, Dr. P, what's on your mind today?
So it happened, I guess, last month. So kind of a hot topic, but it just came out recently. So Rich Homie Quan, not necessarily in my demographic, I guess, but he's a rapper and he hails from Atlanta and has been very successful. And, he's had songs that, some people probably know. I think it's the Flex and Lifestyle. But he died.
Feel Some Type of Way.
Yes, that one too.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. So he died on the 5th of September, and it was kind of weird. It was kind of interesting because his brother said he found him on the floor with some food in his mouth. He put him on his couch. His wife had went to drop her kids off. He was on the couch sleep. When she got home, realized that he had died. And he had an autopsy, and so he was found to have a mixture. Fentanyl, benzodiazepines, codeine, promethazine. And so it's just really unfortunate. And I guess my thing is, from the standpoint of the fentanyl epidemic, it hits everyone, and even our stars. And I just thought it was so sad because he was only in his 30s. I think he was 35.
34
years old. I mean, it's just, he had the rest of his career to live out. And so, this is, it's hitting everyone. It's not just even people, and, we always try to stigmatize people, based upon, where are they living? How are they living? And that kind of stuff. And no, this is somebody that was in the prime of his life, a star, and ended up dying over fentanyl.
That's right. That's right. So you're right. It hits everybody. I feel like there was a time like 2-3 years ago where literally in the ER, that's all I would see. Not just fentanyl, but just heroin overdose, narcotics of any sort, Percocets, anything, people coming in. And the main thing we'd see is they'd stop breathing, right? Because that's what happens. Drugs like fentanyl, drugs like heroin, morphine, Percocet, Vicodins, all of those things, they essentially stop your body's drive to breathe. So it tells your body, it doesn't allow your body to breathe. It tells it to stop. And so the main thing that happens is they have basically respiratory failure. And I was seeing that all the time. But fentanyl is getting a lot of shine all of a sudden nowadays.
Well, it's increasing though. If you look at the statistics, at least from 2022, I mean, overall opioid overdoses were kind of at a plateau between 21, 22, but synthetic components, fentanyl itself has gone up. It was like 74,000 or more of overdoses in 2022. That's like the most recent statistic. So it's just kind of crazy from the standpoint that we know it's there and people are still like, not that I wouldn't buy drugs anyway, but like to go out there and buy something off the street and fentanyl going on, I just can't. How you do it?
It's addiction.
Pinson, I want to add something, Dr. Pinson. I currently work in a detox facility, and a lot of times these kids come in and they're coming to be treated for a particular drug, and then we test them. They test positive for fentanyl. A lot of these drugs are being laced with fentanyl, and the kids buying it off the street, they have no idea. These dealers are lacing the drugs with fentanyl so they can keep coming back to them for the addictive properties. And my only thing when I was a fan of Rich Homie Quan, that was my song, and I was hurt when I found out about it because I know this sounds crazy, but Narcan is so readily available, right?
Yeah.
As a family member, I find it hard to believe that certain family members aren't aware of the drug abuse or the habits. It's so easy to get Narcan.
But I think that was just it because they were so comfortable saying he was laying on the floor and put him on the couch. Like it to me, that made
It happens all the time, right?
exactly.
Right.
So why, if you knew, you're correct, and I think that's the thing. I mean, definitely we want to say no, no drugs, but then again,
No.
we're not giving people enough information even about Narcan.
No.
So
Exactly.
Narcan, just for those of
Yeah.
you who are not familiar with it, it is a medication that is a reversal agent for opioid medication. So if somebody has an overdose, it usually comes as injection, although you can give it as a spray in some cases. And it basically will reverse the effect of the opioid drug, the narcotic drug, and in many cases get the person to start breathing again if that's what the opioid drug is doing to them.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's
Yeah,
very
I
sad.
think the
Heart.
lethal dose of fentanyl is like 2 milligrams. And I was trying to explain that to someone whom I saw who had come in and had gotten drugs off the street. And I explained to them, it takes that much. And they were like, oh, that's not a lot. And I showed them a picture of the pill that they had taken. And I was like, can you tell me how much is in this? Because all he got is a happy face on it. And you don't look happy. So
Right.
how much is in here? And the
Right.
point is, I don't care how pretty blue it is. You don't know what you're taking, and it don't take much to put you on the other side of the earth.
That's right. It does not take much. It doesn't take much at all. And it also doesn't take a lot in those instances to get you back to this side of earth. If people know that you have a problem, they should keep things around you that can reverse it, just like Morgan was saying. But anyway, we are sorry, go ahead, Morgan.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to add this one thing. What have we learned from Prince, right? I mean, our beloved Prince, unfortunately it was, that was found in his system as well. And, it's almost like we haven't learned anything. We think we're thinking we're invincible.
Right.
So that's what breaks my heart. No
Well,
one's
we're also
learning.
trying to hide it. We're trying to hide it. I think that the more that we try and hide addiction and don't call it for what it is and put it to the forefront, the more people are going to die, because what you do in the dark is not going to help, right? We can't know, we can't help. So I think that's part of the problem is that. And then of course people are trying to politicize fentanyl, right? It's like it's all because of the crisis at the borders, and that's why fentanyl is getting in. Even before there were problems at the borders, I can tell you I had people who were having problems with fentanyl overdoses. So I just want to put that out there. But let's switch gears a little bit. What's on your mind, Morgan?
On my mind? Oh my gosh. Okay. So when I introduced myself, I said that I hail from Brooklyn, New York. So New York City is close to my heart. So I just want to discuss the state of politics in this entire state of New York. In 2021, our beloved governor, Andrew Cuomo, stepped down due to predatory allegations. And most recently, Mayor Adams was just indicted for, Eric Adams was just indicted for accepting campaign funds from the Turkish government. But this goes even further. This is way before his mayoral election. He was accepting money from them when he was Brooklyn Borough president. So, excuse me, Brooklyn Borough president. What hurts me is he is a hometown son. He's from Brownsville. He's from Brooklyn. He's Brooklyn raised. He was a police officer, worked his way up. He became captain of the New York City PD and borough president, and then mayor. We haven't had an African-American mayor since the first one, Mayor David Dinkins, may God rest his soul. He served from 1990 to 1993. So this was big for us. I mean, I don't live there anymore, but still, I'm a hometown girl. It was big for us when he made it. So for this to happen, it's almost like one thing after the other. He gave the key of the city to Diddy. He ended up retracting the key.
When was that key given to Diddy, by the way? Do you know what year?
Take that back.
When was that key given to Diddy?
I think, was it a year? I mean, I know it's fairly recently, probably within a year or two. No, it wasn't that long ago. And they placed pressure on him to retract that key. So he did. Yeah. And now he's in a world of trouble.
Look, change locks.
Change the lock.
Change the lock. Don't just take the lock for the key. So you have two hometown guys that are just going through it right now. And no, I'm not defending them by any means. I mean, okay, so they're both, the charges for both of them are still alleged, but it's just an embattled political situation in New York City, and it just breaks my heart.
It does. It breaks my heart too. New York is
Yeah,
always kind of the center, the focal point of many things in the United States. We look to New York oftentimes for guidance or just kind of trying to see how big city life does it. And so definitely this is making national news, and I've had my eye on it. So we'll see how things pan out. But I can see the Big Apple going bananas. We'll see how all the chips land, right?
The apple's going bananas. I love it.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. All right.
The different ways that he got caught up in his sauce, like people doing music videos in churches without, the proper is it fire marshal,
Permits?
like inspection?
Yeah.
Just all that just didn't happen.
Yes.
Wait,
that's one of the ways. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I'm not gonna say the
he-
artist's
so-
name because she got more
so
money than me, but
he was, he was a
but yeah,
allegedly
allegedly,
fire department to push through permits.
What's that? Put that back up there. I want to see.
That's allegedly.
Allegedly.
Yeah. So it's he was very. I must say he was very connected to the hip hop community. Let's say that.
Oh, okay.
No, he's been. I don't know. There was actually I just saw where he was in Notorious B.I.G.'s video. They were showing.
Yes, he was.
Yes,
he was.
Yeah, because he had a political poster on one of the a light pole.
Pull-ups.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yes.
So
crazy. So he's been around. You see how long he's been around. That's why. That's almost
he had hair in that picture.
You said he had hair, where he doesn't have hair now, but that dates the whole picture.
Yes.
Anyway, Dr. Yuli, what's on your mind? What's going on?
As one of New Orleans' finest, and I'm proclaiming that. Hurricane season hits my heart. It hits me right in the feels. And living here in Atlanta, we did get some backlash and effects from Hurricane Helene, but I know that there were other areas that got hit hardest. I recall the non-robust response from FEMA back in 05, 06, 07, continue on, because hurricane season don't stop. But one thing I really am getting sick of is there are a certain group of people who are speaking about FEMA's only giving $750 to hurricane relief, and that is not correct. So if you just read a book for just a little bit, you'll find that that's called the Serious Needs Assistance. It is a upfront payment that's for essential items like food and water and baby formula, stuff like that. If you need more, there are other ways, there are numbers you contact, so you can contact FEMA so they can assess your eligibility for the available funds. But this ongoing rhetoric of, oh, well, they're only giving people $750, that's just not true. And I really hate that this and other rumors are just making their way through the zeitgeist, and people are drinking this stuff up. My heart goes out to everybody affected by the hurricane. And I personally would like to hear if there's anything that could be done from our end.
Absolutely. So I just want to take a moment of silence, if you guys will, for all of the victims, because this is a very deadly hurricane. Over 200 people here in the United States have been killed. There are still some people who are unclaimed that people are searching for. There is a lot of damage to infrastructure, a lot of flooding. And so, yes, we feel very blessed that here in Georgia we weren't hit that hard, but there are places even here in Georgia that are suffering. So I wanted to just take a moment of silence for those who were impacted by Hurricane Helene. And also a moment of silence for those who were impacted by Hurricane Milton, which followed shortly after. Thank you for that moment of silence. And yes, we do need to be more intentional and more responsible with, one, the way we conduct our relief efforts, and two, the way we talk about it. You're right. There's a lot of misconceptions, a lot of mistruths. We have to remember it is an election season. So this is the time where everything gets sensationalized. Everything, has a narrative and a spin on it. But let's remember at heart, what we need to do is come together as a country to help these victims. And I'm really hoping for those, especially who have not been able to contact their family members, that we're able to find them alive and well, and that we're able to do what we can. And so as we find out what we can do in terms of relief efforts, we'll be broadcasting that on the show too. But once again, our hearts go out from WDT to all the victims of Hurricane Helene.
Yeah, and just real quick, I guess I don't know, this is a time for everybody to come together. I mean, I realize it's an election season and that kind of stuff. And, I'm hoping that people can get beyond that and do what we need to do to come together. Because it just even a lot of the conspiracy theories that are coming about with weather,
Yep.
That people are manipulating the weather to get red states and, it's just mind-boggling.
I heard that and I thought it was a joke. So there's actually a politician who I heard with my own mouth, with my own ears, from her own mouth, say that the weather can be manipulated for political purposes. And I thought it would, my husband had made me aware of that. I was like, oh no, that can't be true. And until I heard the soundbite.
Yeah.
So,
we got to manipulate the weather. That way the weather's nice when we're grilling all the dogs and cats that we're eating. We have to make sure that we have that.
What is this going to? I can't anymore with this.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna switch gears a little bit, because we really came here to talk about something that has been on my mind for a very long time.
But before we jump into the topic at hand, do we protect predators? We want to just take a brief break to showcase some of the things that our docs from When Docs Talk are up to. We also want to invite you to participate in this discussion. You let us know what you think. Do we as a society protect predators? Why do we look away if you think that we do? Weigh in, put up your comments, and we'll make sure to include them on the show. But for now, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Yolanda. Dr. Yuli has just started her own practice. She is the new owner of the Healthy Woman franchise. Check her out in East Atlanta. Here's her info right here. I also want to let you all know about something I'm really excited and really proud to tell you about. Channel Your Inner Superhero with Dr. Diddy is a comprehensive guide to parents and caregivers on what to do when your children face health emergencies. No more waiting in the ER, no more Googling and not knowing what to trust. Check out Channel Your Inner Superhero. More details on that to come soon. But let's jump into it. Do we protect predators? Let us know what you think.
I love host of musical artists, comedians. There are people who literally, when I think about shows, take me back to my childhood. When I hear a song, takes me back to a moment in my life that's just so happy and carefree. And as I think about those things, it pains me to feel conflicted about listening to certain music from artists that I love and respected as artists, but now have learned so many things about what they were doing to other people, in many cases, children. And so what's been on my mind and what we're here to discuss with you all today, and we want you all to weigh in, is do we, because they make us laugh, because they make us dance, because they make us feel good, do we, as a society, protect predators? That's our topic of discussion today with Hot Tops by the Docs WDT. So everybody's been watching the news, whether you like it or not, whether you listen to it, whether you're on social media, what have you. There's no way that you haven't heard about the recent events with Sean Diddy Combs. We have heard all sorts of allegations. We know that he was recently arrested. The feds basically went into his house. And so it opened up the topic again, right? Of do we protect predators? Because I don't know about you all, but I've been hearing about rumors and talks about Diddy for years and years and years. As I heard about R. Kelly for years and years and years. As I heard about Michael Jackson for years and years. I mean, we can name a ton of people, a host of people that we've been hearing about inappropriate behaviors and in some instances, criminal behaviors. And yet we've still been hearing their music. We've still been watching their shows. And so I'm going to pose this question to you all first, and then to our viewers. What are your thoughts? Do we protect predators?
I think we do. I think we do.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to these beloved artists, I think that a lot of them they made a stamp on our lives at a particular time in our life. And when you listen to the music, it's reminiscent of where you were, and sometimes it's just the soundtrack of your life. And it's hard to sometimes separate the man of the music from the man. And I can say that for myself, you know, with the R. Kelly's and the accusations against Michael Jackson, for at times I do feel conflicted. So yeah, I think we do to a certain extent.
But also, I mean, it is kind of hard too, because I mean, you want to, I guess, with that, because you have a certain sense of feeling about the person. Is it a matter of giving them the benefit of the doubt, and you're innocent until proven guilty? So I think that's the other thing too, from the standpoint of, okay, wait a minute, let's not necessarily scrutinize this person until we really get the facts and know what's going on with the situation.
And the other thing that also, another reason I feel like we protect them, I mentioned it earlier. You mentioned Morgan music, some of the shows that we watch, they're soundtracks to our lives. We get that certain feeling, that dopamine release that takes us to that happy place. That's addiction. And that can be hard to be like, you know what? I'm never listening to I Believe I Can Fly or Thriller ever again. It just, it takes a lot. I mean, y'all know I love Halloween, and y'all know it's real hard not to press play when I see Thriller come across my playlist. It's real hard.
Do we have to, though? That's the question. Because I know in my mind, I have decided with certain artists, yeah, I'm just going to let it go. Because once they were convicted, once I was satisfied in my mind that they were predators and that they had been harming women, children, I was like, I can't make them richer. But there are other artists where I was like, you know what? And Michael is one of them. It really conflicts me, because I love Michael Jackson, everything about Michael Jackson, not just the music, but what he seemed to stand for. He seemed to want to help kids. And some of the things that I've heard have been very disturbing. And so I think when I get to the point, if I get to the point that I'm fully convinced that he did all the things that he's accused of, I have decided that I'm going to separate the man from the music. And so my question to you all is, do we sometimes need to separate the man from the music and recognize that they have ascended or transcended just themselves, that their music stands for more than just them? It's bigger than them, in which case we can't throw it away, this art, just because of what it's affiliated with.
I feel like it depends on when the egregious activity was done. I feel like if it was done during your live, active, formative years, I feel like it's going to be a lot easier for someone to separate that versus someone who, I'm going to bring up Jimmy Savile. Okay. Jimmy Savile, for those of y'all who don't know, was a beloved children's show star over in England. Okay. He died in 2011. And in 2012, the proverbial caca hit the fan. And it came out that this person who's revered by people in this country had inappropriate actions with over 300 minors and over 450 people total. And there are people who remember him in his later years who completely separate that activity from what he did, during the time period. He was going into hospitals, folks. He was going into mental institutions. He had this love from younger population, and that allowed him that access. And I believe that people who were maybe being willing observers of what was going on, I think that they would have different ways of separating it versus someone who maybe found out about it right now.
Do you think they knew, though? Because that's another thing that comes up, is a lot of people are like, well, in some cases people knew, and they should also be implicated, not just the artist. And in my opinion, that's kind of a way to protect the artist still, like, oh, it's the people around him who should be involved in the punishment too, or oh, it's the parents. There's always someone else they're trying to shift blame to, right? But do you think people knew?
I feel like, in our criminal justice system, if you're driving a car to a house and the person that you're driving with, the passenger, jumps out and commits a murder and jumps back in your car, and you just drive, to your home and blah, 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 you are an accomplice. You are held as responsible as the person that committed the crime. Okay. Now, as parents of some of those victims, what in your mind told you it was okay to let your 7-year-old child sleep with a grown man? All right.
Did they know?
I know.
Did they know that
they knew? They knew.
In some cases, I don't think they did. And let me tell you why. In the case of the R. Kelly one, and that's the one I hear about, what about the parents a lot of the times? The children would sometimes tell their parents that they were going and they were auditioning and so forth. And in some cases, the parents state that by the time that they knew what was really going on, they didn't even have access to their children anymore. They had to literally go on reconnaissance missions just to talk to their children. Their children were hostages, kidnapped, and some of the girls who have been recovered now as women say, yeah, they weren't allowed to talk to their parents. They weren't allowed to do anything.
But but see, that's just, I grew up with my grandmama. And I wasn't going nowhere, especially when they were grown folks, without her next to me. So all of that part, I don't get it, from the standpoint, because at some point you still have to say, listen, I have to protect this child. This is because this is my daughter, this is my child. And so that, I don't know. I don't know if that's a good enough excuse.
Like the old folks say, you're a girl child. I'm not letting you go someplace where you're unsupervised. And in that example, Dr. Ipe, I was referring to the Michael Jackson situation where the parents nearly admitted that they even wondered why, but you allowed it. Because
and then what you're talking about, like the parents that would let their child stay overnight on vacation. Like the parents, I heard in that instance, the parents went on vacation and left the child at the ranch.
The parent, and they were in a hotel room. They were in a hotel, and then Michael requested that allegedly Michael requested that the child stay in his room, and the parent allowed it.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
Yes. Not at all.
Ain't no way.
I'm a mother.
But wait a second. Just to play contrarian, do you think that it doesn't make sense and it makes us feel some kind of way now because of what we know? Because let me land though. So many of us, even I've heard us say, oh, he was like a child himself. He never grew up. He didn't have a childhood. So do you think it's the naivety and ignorance of the parents thinking, oh, it's just like letting my child sleep over with a child?
No, it's inappropriate.
Oh, it's definitely inappropriate.
Coming from a parent's perspective, I would think from Jump Street that's inappropriate. Even if this could have been Michael Jordan, someone who in our society, doesn't have those type of allegations on them. They're revered. They went out with a bang. They're still revered. This could be somebody with a clean slate. You're an adult. My child is 7 or 8 or 9. It's inappropriate on 1,000 levels.
Yeah. And keep in mind, just to remember though, this is before any of the accusations were lobbied, right? So this is before when people thought he was like the man who loved children and could do no wrong and was a big child himself. Do you think that our mindset has changed now as a society where we are now recognizing that, hey, people that we should or think we can trust are not trustworthy, where back then we were more naive?
Well, I think some people were. Yeah. Like I said, I grew up with Evelyn Pinson. We weren't going over it. Yes, not having it. Anybody's house if she didn't know the parents. And then my grandfather would go over there, sit and hang out. And I was so embarrassed. But then again, I knew I was safe at all times. Safe at all times.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
My mother didn't have it either.
You know what's so funny?
My mama will tell me there were uncles I couldn't even sit on their lap. No, you come over here. Don't come over to about Uncle such and such.
So people knew.
No, so my mom wasn't having it. I'm not having it in a way.
or it
But
was
let me
just a
tell you,
little.
I was talking to my mom. I was talking to my mom just yesterday, and we were talking about sleepovers. And I was allowed to go to some sleepovers when I was younger. It's still limited. They had to know the parents of the. My mom's like, you wouldn't go to any sleepovers nowadays, and don't let my grandsons go to any kind of sleepovers. We don't do that. And so, do you think that the pendulum has swung in one direction, and do you think things have changed where now we're just suspecting everybody?
I just think we're more aware.
Yeah, and I think people are probably more cautious, but I think I think it's good. It's needed. It really is. I mean, there's just some horrible things that have been going on all of these years with children, and we need to protect them.
Well,
at
the
all
children.
costs.
also the idea of the village that we grew up in. You know, I can't remember from I can't remember fully how you guys, as far as like economically where you're standing at, but I grew up broke, and I know that my neighbors and people that my mom worked with would look out for us. And if we had to go over to a house while mom had to do A, B, and C, it's not as big of an issue because mom knew those people. Nowadays, people purposely will separate themselves to the point where if you needed to send your kids to someone's house, how could you do so comfortably?
Right. So we're not as much a community anymore. So you don't know who to trust. It's very hard to trust.
Right.
But what about people that you really feel like you can trust? And let's talk a little bit about grooming, right? Because I wonder if that's part of what goes into it. It's never the boogeyman, right? It's never like somebody off the street. It's always somebody that you trusted, that you believed you could trust. Is the reason why some of these celebrities who are able to get away with these egregious things are trusted because they give gifts. They make themselves seem very interested in the children, like your child is a star. Like, tell me what you think goes into the process where these parents kind of allow their kids to get there, because it can't be all bad parents who are trying to pimp their kids out. I really don't
No,
believe
I think it's so of fame, money, and you do, and I think they do truly overall want the best interest of their child from the standpoint, I want, hey, this is what my child wants. I want them to be famous. I want them to have opportunity. And this is going to be their avenue to do it. So I think that's the draw, though, is because it is, oh my, Neverland Ranch. I mean, that in itself was beautiful, was magical. And wow, look at once again what he's saying, what he's giving to us and that kind of stuff. So I could totally see how somebody could, be manipulated in order to be trusted and that kind of stuff. So I definitely could see that.
Why? Tell me, tell me why. Why did it take us so long? Talking about R. Kelly, let's go to him back again. Talking about Diddy too, because it's been a long time that I've been hearing things, and y'all have been hearing things. Why is it 2024, and in the case of R. Kelly, I guess 2022-ish, that we're now having any sort of repercussions for the actions that we have literally heard about for 20 years, and some of us seen with our own eyes in the case of R. Kelly with the video?
Well, I think it's because of patriarchy and misogyny. I mean, I even hear it now from the standpoint of when it comes even to, like, say, R. Kelly and these young women and the hypersexualization of Black young women, young girls. And so with that, from the standpoint of like, it was their fault, or it was something, it's blaming the victim.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
they were fast. They were fast girls. And
yes,
they didn't look like they were 13. They didn't act like they were 13.
And they know what they were getting into. And, they knew what time it was and this and that. I mean, you hear those things and it's like, wow. Because at the end of the day, they still were children.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they looked like, what they were acting like, they were children. So I think that's part of it. And I think maybe we, with the Me Too movement, I think hopefully we're evolving some to the standpoint of realizing even all the nuances when it comes to this and in discussing it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're evolving. That's why it took so long. Okay, so what about with Diddy?
I think it's based on it with Diddy. I think a lot of it is based on whatever agenda the government has for him. And I say that because, like you said, we've all heard and things about Diddy over the past 30 years. I mean, I'm from New York, and you know, in the early 90s, Diddy was the man in New York. You know what I mean? Those parties were infamous. Like you would do anything to get a ticket to one of Diddy's parties, right?
And you're hearing about all the people, all the different people, and they're trying to say, no, wait a minute, that wasn't me. Everybody was at those parties. You're right.
Right.
But is it the party that's the problem or the after party?
You know, he even sang, you know, he even rapped about it, the after party. You know, he talked a little bit too much, but I think it's agenda, right?
Right.
Because that video with him, you know, that horrible video where he beat Cassie as she lay on the ground. That happened in 2016 at probably a very high level, high class hotel. Somebody had that video for 7 to 8 years. Somebody had it. Somebody had it. The timing of the release of that video was intentional. Okay. So I'm saying that to say that they released it in time to fit their agenda. Because I think not only are they out to take down Diddy, there are people higher involved that they're after.
Like who? I mean, when we say higher, we're talking about like more political influence because Diddy's a billionaire.
I'm just saying. I'm gonna say this. I'm from New York, and 1 out of 2 of the presidential candidates used to be at Diddy's white parties. I'm just saying.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. So, I mean, it's big.
Okay.
You don't hold on to something like that for 8 years.
Unless you're trying to build a case. I hear you. I hear that. So then, okay, so what about this whole notion? Because now that we hear about Diddy, now all the stars are coming out. It wasn't me. All trying to get shaggy with it, right? Wasn't me. Is it fair to implicate the people just because they were at the parties when we know that a lot of the stuff was after? So people say, hey, I was there. It was just a party. Anybody who was everybody in those days was going, like you said, right? Is it fair for us to assume that all of them are predators?
No, and I was watching.
I don't think so.
An attorney speak today, and they said that these political figures, if these high, these powerful political figures were at the parties and they're in these quote unquote freak off videos, if they weren't engaging in anything illegal, they can ask that their faces be blurred out in the video. Okay, so just being at the party should not implicate you or criminal charges be brought up because you were at the party. If you were not engaging in anything criminal.
Because actually, as long as you're a consenting adult.
Thank you.
That part. I think that's
what I was about to say. I was about to say unpopular opinion, and it may sound all freaky deaky, but let's be real. If you were having sex at an after party, that's not a crime. Even if you were having an orgy, even if you were doing what we would think was taboo, crazy sex, like it's not a crime. It's a crime, of course, when you start to bring in minors, and it's a crime when it's people who are there against their will. And that's where the lines get blurry. And I want you guys to weigh in on this, because the implication is that some of those people who were having sex were not consensually there, that they were being trafficked. How would a person who was at that party, let's say they're just there for the freak, okay? For the freak off, as they used to call them, if they're just there for that and they didn't know that one of the people they're having sex with is there against their will, should they be implicated?
They should at least be questioned. They should at least have no problem being able to give whatever information that they may have. Because if you went to the freak off party and you got freaky and you got all the STDs and the badge and whatever, that's fine. But if you don't want to speak about something that could help a case, now I'm questioning you.
Well, I mean, they may not. The thing is, guilty by association, right? So you may not want your name anywhere in that. You might not want to even talk about it. And from what we're hearing, of course, this is all alleged, but the truth will come to light. There were a lot of tapes made for use in blackmail situations. And so maybe they're like, listen, even if I didn't do something illegal, I may not want my behind out there. Maybe I'm married. Maybe I'm a politician. Maybe I'm somebody who wouldn't want people to know that I was engaging in any kind of sex, whether it was consensual or not. And so maybe that's why they don't want to talk. Okay.
Money, power, strength.
You said what? You said what, Morgan?
The silence is deafening.
The
Like,
silence is deafening.
you know, he has all these friends in Hollywood for 30 years, and no one has spoken in his defense. Not one.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No, seriously, that's true. Like with other people, let's go back to like R. Kelly, and of course we're going to talk about Bill Cosby. You can't do this show and not talk about Bill Cosby a little bit, but all of those people, I feel like I heard people defending them to some level, saying, "Oh, well, it was consensual on the part of the others." What do you think it is about Diddy that people are not defending him?
Well, I don't know. You think it's scared? Well, I don't know. I mean, not that I know anybody that knows him personally, but I've always just heard such negative things about his personality, his attitude, and that kind of stuff. So not to say he can't throw a great party, this and that. He's hustling and flowing, but I had not heard anything very nice like about him in itself. So that might be part of it also.
So you think because he's not a nice guy is why people are not coming to his defense? Because there's a lot of jerks. Like we think about people like Jeffrey Epstein was supposed to be kind of a jerk, and Harvey Weinstein, not the most pleasant of guys. Like there's a lot of people who they're not kind, but they're rich.
You don't hear. I don't remember hearing anybody saying nice stuff about Harvey Weinstein either. I mean, the moment all that stuff came out, everybody was like shoving him under the bus.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Like, so you know, so from that standpoint, I feel like it's the same way. Like when I wasn't surprised because I just all the negativity even around oh God, what was his ex's death? What was her name?
Kim Porter.
Kim Porter. I mean, there was concerns that he have something to do with it. I mean, it's just always all these rumors about him, and they weren't good. I mean, they were all negative. So from that standpoint, I it could be fear, but I just don't feel like a lot of people had a very high opinion of him.
Okay, so
I think one of the reasons why it's just now coming out is that money is very, very powerful, especially for people who don't have it innately. I feel like he probably encountered the person who couldn't be bought, and that's where
who was that
started. And I don't think it was recent either.
I wonder who that is, because I feel like nowadays so many people are willing to be bought. So many. I
think it's someone who I think maybe the public as large would probably look over them. #Farnsworth Bentley. He might have gotten he might have gotten in contact with somebody who was just like, you know what, I'm not impressed by your money. You dirty, you foul, you nasty.
Well, everyone, that completes part 1 of WDT series, Do We Protect Predators? Don't miss part 2, where we delve into some of our beloveds, MJ, Bill Cosby, and also talk about the people on the other side of the spectrum, politics, people in finances, the Epsteins, the Weinsteins. We have more to discuss, and we want to know what you think. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on When Docs Talk.
When Docs Talk, when Docs Talk, when Docs Talk, when Docs Talk. Docs Talk, when Docs Talk. When Docs Talk.